Mr. Henry, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the Planning and Zoning Board / local planning agency. It's an advisory board which makes recommendations to the county commissioners, who will make the final decision on all these items. Items H1, H2, and H8 are LPA items. Items on today's agenda will be heard by the County Commission on October 3rd at 5 p.m. When a motion ends in any kind of a split vote, a roll call vote may be taken to ensure accuracy. As a reminder, each member who makes a motion or a second needs to turn their microphone on so that your voice is on the record. Speakers for public comment on agenda items will be given 3 minutes. At this time, if any board member has had any ex parte communication regarding any application, please disclose so now. All right, I need a motion for approval of the P&Z minutes from August 12th, 2024.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Debbie, a second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Are you ready? All right. Item H1.
Good afternoon. Item H1 is a request for a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners regarding an amendment to Chapter 62, Article 10, Division 6, Section 62-3751, Exhibit A, Stormwater Management Criteria for the subsections 4.6D and 4.6J, Brevard County Code of Ordinances. 4.6D is to allow polypropylene pipe as an additional optional pipe to be used in the county right-of-way. And then the other section is for the allowance of administrative waivers for inverted siphons under certain criteria for commercial sites. Right now, they're board waivers only.
Okay, is the applicant here?
This was actually a direction by the board for legislative intent that the board directed staff to look into doing a code change for these sections.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, can I? Yes, we'll open for discussion.
You know, over the years here, the word polypropylene, are we starting to get into the approvals of what pipes you all are going to start using?
The pipe types for use in the county right-of-way have always been restricted. They've been restricted to concrete and PVC. This would add in polypropylene specifically. It's not the same as the HDPE black pipe that everybody thinks about. It's the gray pipe. It's a lot stiffer. It's had a very good track record. It was approved by DOT in 2014.
Right.
Yeah, my concern is if you may be here the next time for ADS, and then the next time you're going to be here for ACCMP, and then the next time you're going to be talking to us about concrete. And, you know, it seems like if we approve it, unfortunately, I'm too much up and down this county, but it seems like we're always the bad guys, the planning and zoning, but you guys approved septic tanks for the Indian River, and so we only hear the negative part. And so when I read this agenda item, I was certainly concerned because, yeah, I don't know how much everybody on this board knows about it. I mean, everybody may be an expert in that arena, but I just envision the next time you're going to talk to us about ACCMP. You know, I don't know.
Okay, it's on. We have no intent to approve ACCMP in the right-of-way. It's taken a long time to get to this point on the polypropylene because staff wanted to make sure that the track record was there and that DOT had had enough time of stuff in the ground to be able to prove that that pipe was not going to have some unintended consequences. We're comfortable with it now. There are a bunch of other types of pipes that we are still not comfortable with and are still restricted outside of, or inside of the right-of-way. Outside of the right-of-way, there are no restrictions. It's up to the engineer designing the site.
Okay, I'm just going to, I think it's a strong concern. I don't think this planning and zoning board should be in the pipe approval business. That's the only thing I'm going to say. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
All right, I've been a drainage engineer, been a DOT engineer. The high-density polypropylene pipe has been used throughout the state of Florida. It's also on the approved products list. So it's not necessarily a concern. It'll take an H20 loading from a truck. So it's, I'm in favor of it. I do have, when we get in, can I continue on in the discussion?
Yes.
Okay, I have a comment concerning the inverted siphon. I've designed them, I've put them in, I've inspected them, I've maintained them. They are a maintenance headache. So the only thing that I would look at is on page 3, under your Public Works reviewer, under the following conditions, is the approval waiver is on item 1. It said inverted siphons, bubble-up structures shall not be located within the public right-of-way or in residential developments. I'd like to change that to adjacent to residential developments, because when they flood and they plug, which they do often, it's overflowing adjacent to residential developments. And I would like the board to consider that change and discuss it if necessary.
Well, if you're going to make a motion, Robert, include that in your motion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that on the exclusion of item 1, in lieu of in residential developments, change the wording to adjacent to. And with that change, I would recommend approval.
Before I second that, can you go along with and residential? With your adjacent and in residential? Because otherwise they're not going to be in
Well, you can
residential.
have a commercial property where, and I've built them, where the retention or the bubble-up structure is going to be in the rear, and where it clogs, it's adjacent to a residential and overflows into the residential people. So those are the concerns. And the reason you would use a siphon is for an underground obstruction, like you're transversing a canal or something, and you want that bubble-up structure to drain on the other side of that canal. And they clog. I mean, you get gators, you get raccoons, you get all kinds of stuff that, can clog that stuff. Leaves, debris, storm damage.
But you're getting away from my question. My question was, it states here in residential developments. If you change that to adjacent, then you would no longer be in a residential development. Don't you want to add that it's also in a residential
And
development?
adjacent to?
No, yeah, in residential and adjacent to, yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, then I'll second it.
Staff, did y'all get the motion?
Yes.
Okay, we got a motion by Robert, a second by John. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Okay, item H2, which is also an LPA item.
Okay, item H2 is also a recommendation for a code revision to Chapter 62, Article 11, flood damage protection. minor changes. These are actually, the county participates in the CRS, the community rating system for flood protection and insurance rebates. And so we have to stay current with what the state has for flood protections. These modifications to our code were coordinated with their representatives so that we could retain our CRS rating within the county.
Okay, I'll open for discussion on item H2.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm currently a consultant to FEMA on their public assistance and grants program. I do have a question on striking the repetitive loss. Can staff explain why the repetitive loss was stricken from this ordinance? And what was the rationale for a repetitive loss strike?
Sure. Mr. Sullivan, so as Rachel stated, we were working with the Department of Emergency Management at the state. They have their consultant. And my understanding is that the state is moving towards a uniformed ordinance throughout the state. So there's a number of jurisdictions that have removed that requirement. And so they've just folded that into what our proposed changes are. Now, what the basis of that was is I asked them this morning, haven't heard back from them, but my understanding is that just is what FEMA came down with and FDEM.
Okay. Got a letter here to the Honorable Charles Schumer, and it was dated April 21st of last year. And it's from the Assistant Secretary of Legislative Affairs for FEMA. Essentially, basically what they're saying is due to the high number of catastrophes that have hit us nationwide, FEMA's running out of budgetary constraints. So, and one of the key components of their coordination manual and their requirements, FEMA 480, is repetitive loss. And so we're in a category 7, I think, and the minimum is a category 8. So because of Brevard County having the St. John's on the west, the Indian River in the center, and Atlantic Ocean on the east, we're about 38% of our county is in a special flood hazard zone. So what we're looking at is repetitive loss would increase all of our flood insurance premiums. So that I'm curious on if you can follow up and find that. And I do agree with Henry that, you know, we're going to end up being the bad guys approving ordinances for things that are kind of obvious. So I'm real curious on why the repetitive loss element, which is a mainstay in the federal insurance rate maps, why that was struck.
Oh, that was a question?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
I took note, yes, sir. I mean,
Okay.
like I said, I reached out to the FDEM consultant, and we're working on that. And just as a side note, we also coordinated with Natural Resources, spoke with them this morning. One of their concerns was also the repetitive loss being stricken, so, and that was from a grant perspective. And so my fallback is if we're using FEMA, they have their own definition of repetitive loss, and if we're seeking grants from them, they would be applying their own definition. So wasn't concerned in that light, but like I said, we'll see what FDEM comes back with.
Well, if we're trying to get grants from FEMA for various elements, should we not use their definitions in our ordinances?
Absolutely, yeah, I would recommend we do that, but in light of there being an absence of a definition in this case, I think the FEMA one would control.
Well, I agree, baby steps are great, you know, I kind of like adult steps, but, you know, if we have to move with baby steps, we'll move with baby steps. But, you know, this is, like I said, I don't care who's going to be president next year, this is going to hit with FEMA 2.0. So, you know, a lot of people are leaving the state of Florida because the number of insurers are leaving the state, and that has to do with how we're managing our floodplains and how we're managing our flood insurances and our insurance and risk management. So the state of Florida has a very good web floodplain management, you know, quick guide, and it's right there, and it basically mirrors everything in this coordination manual. So I'm curious who the consultant was that says we should be striking repetitive loss. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. John.
This only pertains to mobile homes, is that correct?
Most of the updates were specific to mobile homes, but the repetitive loss that Mr. Sullivan was referring to applies to the whole ordinance.
Okay, so are we going to look at residential, normal residential, and multifamily, and, I mean, is that going to come back to us?
That's all in there already. These were just solely the updates that the CRS consultant told us were required to continue to meet the minimum Class 8 rating for the NFIP.
Okay. I was looking at some of these definitions that you have on page 13. Did these come directly from FEMA?
No.
Or are they ours? I'm looking at things like base flood elevation.
Yes, that's defined by FEMA.
Okay, because I was having some confusion. How would a homeowner or a manufactured homeowner know that if they're buying a piece of land, they want to put a mobile home on it, how high they have to be off that land? And this is off of a floodplain. Do we have to, I mean, is there any way that we could put in references to the FEMA floodplain map so they would know if that was associated with this ordinance?
So the floodplain maps get updated every now and then by FEMA. They're ever changing. So to reference a specific map would possibly lock us into something old if it's not reviewed constantly, because it's not a regular basis that they're updated. That being said, the flood zones, some of them have base flood elevations already defined by FEMA if they're in an AE zone, but a lot of the zones are A zones and they aren't pre-identified base flood elevations. And there's a process in which FEMA provides guidelines on how to essentially set that, but it's kind of looked at on an individual basis. It would be very difficult to try to define that in the ordinance.
Okay. That's why I questioned it, because just looking at the ordinance, it makes it difficult for people to identify good land to put their properties on and or their improvements. So you're saying in the ordinance we can't help them?
I would
Rich, if I
recommend.
could just jump in real quick. So it's funny because when we were working with Planning and Development and Public Works, one of their concerns was how quickly this ordinance would take effect so that we could put homeowners and property owners on notice. And so we built in a 90-day sort of phase-in where people that come to planning and development will be at least notified that, hey, look, if you're going through the review process, these are the regulations that are going to be coming into place. So ideally, when people come in to get building permits, they'll be made aware of sort of this new regulation that is going to apply to them.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any other discussion? What are we gonna do, Mr. Robert?
I'd kind of like to hear the answer back on why we're not having repetitive loss.
Are you waiting on a response there for that?
Reach back out to FDEM.
So can we go ahead and table this for now, and then we'll skip over it and then come back to it? Are you waiting on it now is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I have to reach out to them, and then they're going to hopefully respond. They're usually pretty quick about getting back to us. So, I mean, we can accept it subject to that, or if you want to condition your approval based on an explanation for repetitive loss, or it's up to the board.
I have a question.
One second, John. Yes, sir, Brian.
For staff, is there a deadline on this for the county commission to put their vote in to meet the renewal for the CRS?
We already received a conditional approval, but it's subject to us getting this through, and they are really pushing for a deadline of October.
We got one more.
I mean, the board can,
So we're not going to meet again before then, so this needs to get either approved or denied here, which means it still goes to the county commission. This CRS, what it means is if you don't authorize it, the county potentially loses a discount on their flood insurance for all premiums. So to not pass this.
It's a 5% discount as it stands today.
Yeah, but to not pass this over some simple language could only be detrimental to the people to where their premiums could get higher. So I don't see any benefit in not passing it.
What I would like to see in a perfect world, but, you know, I'm also a realist, is that the same definitions for the grants, the same definitions for your insurance, the same definitions are the same. And right now, there are slight differences, and all you have to do is say, we will comply by the definitions of the CRS manual, you know? Coordinator's manual. Case closed. But that's not, that would require some surgery into this ordinance. And I'm not prepared to write that right now. So what I'm trying to get at is whether you're in Nebraska or whether you're in Seattle or Southern California or Miami, you know, the same FEMA grant's going to happen. We're currently in Region 4. I'm a consultant to Region 2. But it doesn't matter one way or the other. A flood is a flood is a flood. So most of the other counties take these definitions and incorporate that into the other ones.
So for staff, did the consultant that Brevard County hired is the one who suggested striking that?
it's not our consultant, it's the CRS consultant. So the or the FEMA consultant is the one who said we needed to strike that.
There's lots of debate out there on repetitive loss. I'm familiar with it. I don't want to bore a whole lot of people about it, but Florida's had quite a bit of repetitive loss. And our insurance rates, as you've all paid, are going up. And insurance companies are leaving the state of Florida. And the reason they're leaving is the high risk of repetitive loss.
Apples and oranges, because the companies that are leaving Florida are not flood companies, they're wind companies.
But it's all catastrophes, whether it's earthquake, whether it's flood, whether it's hurricane, doesn't matter.
But this subject is specific to CRS, which is FEMA, which flood policies with FEMA, they don't get up and leave because they're written by FEMA.
That's
So those
correct.
carriers aren't leaving the state of Florida for that reason.
No, but the flood maps are changing, and they haven't changed since 2016. And with the development between 2016 and today, 8 years, I think those flood maps will change again. And where previously my house in Fort Lauderdale did not require federal flood insurance, it does now.
Yeah, but the wording of repetitive loss isn't going to change the FEMA maps from changing. They continually change them about every 3 to 5 years.
You're right, but the repetitive loss criteria is integral into this criteria.
So you're just saying that we need to have the FEMA,
Use the FEMA's
Definition.
definitions.
is that
FEMA's,
doable?
FEMA's
It is-
definitions for repetitive loss.
Or is that egregious to do that? Or can we just, I mean, if FEMA is going to force us to use that definition anyways, and this is about getting FEMA grants, then shouldn't we just either refer to the FEMA definition or include the FEMA definition?
Right, so like I said previously, if in the absence of a definition, the default would be the FEMA definition of repetitive loss. And in this case, we are striking repetitive loss from our code of ordinances. I don't think our code of ordinances would trump whatever FEMA has on the books. If anything, that would even create a little more confusion. So my understanding is that FDEM was pushing us to get this going so that we would at least be able to maintain our CRS rating. We've been in the process going back and forth with them for quite a few months now, so we're at the pleasure of the board.
I don't see that wording being stricken from it, changing anything, because FEMA is still going to be ultimately the one that sets the repetitive loss language. So I move to approve this as is.
Second.
Okay, item H2, got a motion by Brian, a second by Debbie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay? I
Okay.
oppose.
Who opposed? Robert and John. Okay, but that motion still passed. Okay, item H3.
Good afternoon. Strickland Development LLC requests to change the zoning classification from BU2 to AU under application number 24Z00026, tax account number 2601599 in District 4. And Mr. Chairman, this applicant has requested that this item be continued. So if it is requested that the Planning and Zoning Board continue this item to be re-advertised for a future meeting.
Do I need a motion to continue it? Okay, I'll need a motion to continue item H3.
Make a motion, we continue item H3 till, do we need a hard date on that?
I need a second.
Second.
Got a motion by Robert, a second by Brian to continue item H3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Item H4.
Yes, item H4, Put It In Me Storage LLC requests change of zoning classification from IU to BU-2. Application is 24Z00010. Tax account number is 2322557 in District 1. And this item was continued from the July P&Z meeting.
Okay, is the applicant here?
Good afternoon. My name is Vahid Timori, Timori and Associate, 32 East New Haven Avenue. We've been here before for the land use change, but unfortunately I missed 2 meetings due to some accident and some personal emergency, so I'm here to just follow up on the rezoning. We couldn't do this under industrial for parking RVs and storage, for some reason, is allowed under BU2. So we're here, that's what we are asking for. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Mr. Vahid, while you're right there, is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? That's good news. So seeing that, I bring it back to the board. We got any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we recommend approval of this zoning change.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Ron, a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You opposed, John? It passed
Thank you.
almost unanimously. Okay, item H5.
Yes, item H5, Robert Corbett, request change of zoning classification from AU to TR-1. Application is 24Z00016, located at tax account number 2410843 in District 1.
Is the applicant here? And whoever's going to be doing this speaking, if you could get as close as you could to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Good afternoon. My name's Rob Corbett. I own 625 Moore Street, and my address is 8715 Southeast May Terrace in Hobe Sound, Florida.
All right, and a little bit about what you're wanting to do, Mr. Robert.
I've owned the property since 2018. It had a residence on it that was dilapidated. I've cleaned it up, and just looking to all the other residences on the street are mobile homes, and the zoning does not allow me to put one on there. It's antiquated zoning, so I'm just looking to bring it up to what everybody else has on the street.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Okay, seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of this zoning change.
Second.
Got a motion by Ron, a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Y'all have a good afternoon.
Have a good day. Item H6, please.
Yes, item H6, Seiichi Noda and Kimberly A. Noda Joint Revocable Trust, requests change of zoning classification from AU to EU estate use. And this is application number 24Z00031, located at tax account number 2511132 in District 2.
Okay, is the applicant here? Sir, if you could just state your name and address for the record.
Certainly. My name is Mitchell Goldman. I'm an attorney. My office is at 96 Willard Street, Suite 302 in Cocoa.
All right, and a little bit about what we're wanting to do here.
Sure. My clients, the Nodas, own property at 2001 Rockledge Drive. The property is approximately 1.83 acres. It runs from US 1 to Rockledge Drive. The parcel is really three parcels. I call it one parcel, but it's really three. The 4/10 of an acre that starts at US 1 is zoned BU1. The middle parcel, which is the parcel we're asking to be rezoned, is about 0.36 of an acre, and that property is that size, and it's zoned AU. The balance of the property that runs to Rockledge Drive is residential estate use. And what my client wants to do is he wants to take the middle parcel that's zoned AU. It's not used. I don't really know why some of those parcels are zoned AU. It really doesn't make sense to me. I don't know how that happened, but I'm familiar that other parcels are zoned that way. It's vacant land, really. And he just wants to be able to use that parcel as a garage. The way the house was built, he didn't build the house, but you can't really add any garage. There's no garage in front, and you can't, aesthetically, you don't want to add a garage in the front. We want to add it behind the house. So that's what he wants to do. He wants to build a garage for his own personal use. And it's certainly compatible with the neighborhood, and no one will ever see it because there are fences down both sides of the property, and there's trees in front, so it shouldn't be an intrusion on any neighbors.
All right, well, sir, while you're right there, does anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing that, I bring it back. If you've got any more to say.
Unless there are questions.
Let me ask Mitch a question. Are we going to try to clean this up, or do we want to leave it piecemeal?
I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I'm sure he wants to, I haven't heard that it's a problem. He obviously is going to have to clear a portion of that property, and he wants to make it look aesthetically attractive. So I certainly will bring that to his attention. I mean, his house is, it's beautiful. So.
I think the zoning board will appreciate that.
Okay. I didn't know, have there been issues with that before?
Does it make good sense down there? Clean this parcel up so it doesn't come back. It's got 4 applications on it, so.
On this parcel?
No, 3, you got 3. You got BU 1
Oh,
and
yes,
AU.
yes.
Yeah, not a.
Yes,
I'm
sorry.
using the different.
Sorry.
Are you all good with that?
Yes, we're good with it. The BU1 fronts onto Highway US 1.
It's just a mess. I know, I'm not allowed to know some, but I do know a little bit about that. These people.
We have no plans to change that.
That's good. You're good.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval. Motion for approval.
Second?
Okay.
Okay, got a motion by Robert, a second by Ron. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Any
you.
opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, item H7.
Item H7, Edwin and Stephanie Silva, request change of zoning classification from AU to RR-1. It is application 24Z00032 and located at tax account number 2105526 in District 1.
Sir, if you could state your name and address for the record.
It's Edwin Silva, 2850 Dairy Road, Titusville.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do.
Yes, sir. We bought this home here back in May. It originally started off as a 4-acre tract. The family broke it up into 2 acres, and then they fixed it again to 2.5 and left a 1.5. The family member went ahead and sold it to me, and the remaining family kept the other 2.5 acres. However, I'm stuck under the AU for the entire parent, and I need to move it to RR1.
All right, while you're right there, does anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Seeing that, I bring it back to the board. We got any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Do you plan to remodel or the house or rebuild or do anything with it?
Yes, sir. Originally, I started off with trying to get a generator for hurricane season. I found that I couldn't even put a nail in the wall, So I'm just coming here to actually to extend the property. Extend the house itself. No, but I'd like to put a 3-car garage where the 2-car garage is currently at.
Okay.
That's the only extra thing that I'm looking at right now. And again, my generator.
Okay. Well, just keep the generator away from windows. All right. Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of this zoning change.
All right.
Second.
Got a motion by Ron, a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item H8.
Mr. Chair, item H8 and 8.9, I will read in together. It's a companion application, but it'll need separate recommendations. Judith A. Baker, Revocable Living Trust, requests a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, 24S.09, to change the future land use designation from Res 1 2.5 to CC under application number 24SS00011, tax account numbers 3000-414, 3000-394, 3000-395, 3000-396, 3000-401, 3000-402, 3000-403, 3000-405, 3000-406, 3000-407, 3000-408, 3000-409, 3000-410, 3000-411, 3000-412, 3000-413 in District 5. Item H9 is Judith Baker, again, Revocable Living Trust, request to change the zoning classification from GU to BU2 under application number 24Z00036, under tax account numbers. They're the same tax account numbers as the first item that I read in. I believe the first item was missing the last tax account number of 30000414, and they're also in District 5.
Okay. Ma'am, if you could pull that microphone down closer to you, if you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is Judith Baker. I live at 419 First Avenue, Melbourne Beach, Florida.
Okay.
And I'm very nervous.
There's no need to be nervous. None at all. And if you could just say a little bit about what you're wanting to do.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to give a little history of my property. Willowbrook Street is the main road that the property is on, and we purchased the first, it's 16 acres more or less. It's only really 14 acres. We purchased the front 10 acres in 1988, and at that time, Willowbrook Street was a dirt road. The road was paved sometime after 1988, but no right-of-way was asked or given. I'm willing to give a right-of-way to the county for that particular section of the road. Brevard County maintains that road, which is 100 feet wide from the swale to the swale, and has installed concrete head walls for drainage on the south side of the road. Willowbrook Street has been used very heavily since we've owned it by dump trucks, semi-trucks, farm equipment, etc. The purpose of my request is there are 11 developments with 27,000 residences either in progress or in the planning stage surrounding my property. I want to service those homes by providing mini self-storage and outdoor parking for RVs and boats using a binding development agreement. That mini storage should really not have any huge impact on the traffic or any real big impact on the roads. Should I go to the second, the zoning part, or we just stop there?
No, that's good. Go ahead.
Okay.
You're doing great.
Thank you. The zoning, the binding development agreement, again, is for the mini self-storage and outdoor parking for RVs and boats. I'm asking for, the zoning is currently GU, I'm asking for BU2. Again, the development, I won't repeat that. I feel the proposal is complementary to the surrounding residential needs. And as reading the staff report, I noticed that the staff report also said the proposal is complementary to the emerging development of the surrounding area. That particular area is just lighting up like fire. It's the South Brevard County, just north of the county line, and all around us is development. I think you approved the, what's it called, Sunterra? Zen properties. North of me, south of me, and then all around me is building, and it's all mostly residential. There was a question about there are 4 lots in the back, in the north section of my property. I think you all have a map of what's going on, and they appear to be landlocked. I have 3 lots on each side, and there's 4 lots in the middle, owned by Mr. Ken Sieb. We've had a gentleman's agreement with Mr. Sieb since 2005 for access across his property and my property to get to his property, because he has property on the east of me, property on the west of me. There's a dirt road running east to west on the north side of our property from Babcock Street that is not recognized by Brevard County. I'm willing to give, with a mutual easement of 50 feet to the property owner, Mr. Ken Sieb. Willowbrook Road, again, is 100 feet wide, swale to swale. The BU2 zoning is what I need for mini storage and outdoor RV and boat parking. My intention is to service the residences there. Water and sewer is not available, but I have a letter from the City of Palm Bay, a will serve letter, that they will have that available. If not, we can dig a well, we can put in a septic system, if approved, that will go with whatever the state requirements are, or the county requirements. I'm done.
All right, well, while you're right there, does anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Okay, seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
A question for staff. Does the original plat, did this have any space for roads or access to these lots that we're going to create an enclave for?
No.
No. Okay, that's
I'm not
interesting.
staff. I probably shouldn't say.
Well, we know that you have been around for just a little while, so you probably have a good idea. That was one of the questions I had, was because some plats actually have space for roads, and I just wonder if this had. So,
Willowbrook, no?
so since there's no space for roads in the plat, you're willing to give an access to those lots, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mutual.
Is that, as far as the county's concerned, is that adequate?
Willowbrook's
One of
clearly
the
maintained.
comments was that we're going to create an enclave, and, I mean, in reality, that already exists, we're not creating it, and she's willing to solve that problem. So, is there anything else she needs to do?
In the report, we consulted with Public Works, and what they had asked for was that if the roadway is not 100 feet in width, that she dedicate what was needed. So she is willing, the applicant is willing to do that. The Willowbrook itself also needs to be repaved, so that will be something that will come up during site plan.
Okay. All right. And I don't think that, as far as we mentioned there's no or inadequate infrastructure in this area, but I think this project will have very little impact on that infrastructure. We've already approved a whole bunch of housing developments with small lots, a lot of residents, with actually no place to store RVs and boats on their property. So the kind of stuff that she's proposing, we need.
Agree.
And I'm also very pleased you put in a binding development plan to simply limit the BU2 uses. I appreciate that. Thank you. I move that we recommend approval of this land use change.
Mr.
H8.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask some questions prior to.
Okay,
Ron's.
we'll hold that motion open for
Okay.
discussion. Robert, go ahead. And I got.
How is and this is for staff. It looks like from the aerial, to access the northern portion of her property to get to the isolated 4 plats, there is access on Babcock Street, but it does not look like it's a controlled access like the interchange. So how would the county look at whether you want to do a T intersection? Because right now it goes to the middle of that property, goes up to the northern portion of it to get to that access.
Can I
So-
answer that?
How would that work for the county?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Can I interject something? Mr. Sieb, who is the owner of those 4 lots in the middle of mine, owns the property to the east of me
Right.
that accesses
Oh, okay.
Willowbrook Street. So he can get to those lots from Willowbrook Street through this easement that we're proposing to allow him to get to that property.
Would he, and you don't have to answer for him, but is he going to be putting, I mean, the road is obviously going east-west to access it, but it curves around to the front of his frontage on Babcock Street. So would he want to put an intersection in there? I mean, what that does is that gives access to the other lots that are on the north side of those elements. You know.
I don't know. I haven't been able to get in touch with Mr. Sieb in years.
Yeah, because I'm in favor of your proposal. But like Henry has so eloquently pointed out so often, that, we don't want to create a problem for the next board or 5 years down the line without being, judicious up front. So how you would access those northern properties, those northern lots, is not from the southern where you're going to be coming from, but it would also happen to impact your neighbor, the property owner that has those 4 lots, and how you're going to get access to the remaining lots throughout that plat.
Mr. Sieb, who we haven't been able to get in touch with him in
Okay.
years, and we actually traded lots with him years ago
Okay.
so that we could line things up better at his suggestion. But again, he owns the property that adjoins my property on the east from Willowbrook Road
Yeah,
all the way back. So even if that dirt road in the back wasn't there, he could still get to his lots by way of our 50-foot easement that we're
you're proposing.
proposing.
Right.
He can still get to his property,
I'm
and he
just-
can get to mine, and he can get to his again, because he's on both sides
No,
of
I
me.
think you've done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
In preparing it for here, but I'm looking at the next step for the other lot owners down the road, so to speak, and no pun. But, so someone would have to dedicate that 50-foot lot all the way down. And would that, and this is a question for staff, is that something in the works?
The applicant hasn't presented us with a site plan yet, and those are things that would be worked out during that time.
Well, it would be to the property owners, not this lady's property. It's all the property owners to the west. They would also have to have that 50-foot easement. And is that a consideration that the county is looking at now? Because like she mentioned, and what we have all seen here, is this district is exploding with housing and development and commercials and changing from residential to BUs and commercials. So is that a consideration for future planning? Or,
Again, Mr. Sullivan, when the site plan is presented, there's several different departments that would be reviewing it. Public Works, Engineering, Land Development, all of those things would be reviewed during that process. We would make sure that the property owner of those 4 lots would continue to have access to their property. Those agreements would be worked out during that time. So
Okay.
we wouldn't start working on it prior to her zoning being approved.
understood. Okay. If there's no other comments, I will second Ron's.
I've got a question for staff. I'm trying to remember, is the spike strip on Satilli, is it on the south side or the north side?
It's on the south side of Willowbrook.
Is it?
Yes.
Was it 10 or 15 feet wide? Do you remember?
You see what I'm saying?
I'm pulling from memory here.
I think that's
It's
somewhat
about that,
correct.
yeah.
Yes.
Just enough.
Yeah, just enough.
That's the problem with that old
That's
one.
good. We're talking about something you don't even have to bother you.
I
It's gonna be
know,
great.
I know Centauri.
That's good. Thank you.
All right, so Ron, I've got your motion still here on item H8, correct?
Right, on H8 to make an approval of the land use change.
And Robert, Ms.
I will
Debbie,
second.
well, she beat you on the second.
Oh, that's fine.
So item H8, a motion by Ron, a second by Debbie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And now item H9.
And then on item H9, I recommend we approve that zoning change with the BDP.
And then,
Second.
y'all are messing with me here today now. Okay, we got a motion on H9 by Robert, a second by Debbie on item H9. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Both of them passed unanimously, and don't be nervous. Now, when you go to the county commissioner, just run up to that podium.
I will. And can I ask what LPA is? You had said at the beginning of the meeting, what's-
Local Planning Agency.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day. Now, item H10.
Item H10, Layton and Michelle Hodges request to change the zoning classification from AU to AGR under application number 24Z00034, tax count number 2100755 in District 1.
Okay, ma'am, and if you could state your name and address for the record?
My name is Michelle Hodges at 4090 Baker Avenue, Titusville, Florida.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do here.
My husband and I have purchased this property. It's about 9 acres. Right now, it is currently zoned AU. We'd like to change it to AGR to be in coordinates with the future use land map. We are just planning on putting a single-family home on the property and homesteading.
All right. While you're right there, is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing that, we have a specialist up north there. His name's Ron Barcher over there. So he might have some questions for you.
Mr. Chairman, actually, I don't have any questions, but I do move that we recommend approval of the zoning change.
Second.
That's the fewest words he's ever had on any application.
I feel honored, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion by Ron, a second by Robert on item H10. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Good luck at the county commissioners meeting. Okay, item H11.
Yes, item H11, Piercarlo and Christina Ciacchi requests change of zoning classification from AU and GU to all AU. Application is 24Z00033, and this is on tax accounts number 2314-742, 2314-743, 2314-744, and 23-22851, located in District 1.
Okay, sir, and if you could state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Piercarlo Ciacchi, and I'm at 3355 Perutka Lane, Coco.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do here.
We purchased, my wife and I purchased this property some 7-8 years ago with the purpose of build our residence, which we did, and have the plans to have a guest house for my family, which is getting older, so that we would all live together. And in the process, I realized that, I didn't know that before, that for the way that the land was designed now, it wouldn't allow us to, it wouldn't let us do that. So I was suggested that all land should be AU, 3 of the 4 lots are AU. There's a lot frontage that is GU. I got more familiar with these terms lately, but the whole point is to make the whole 5 acres AU, which seems to be closer to what we are willing to do with the property. We would be staying there. There's no plans for selling for forever, I'd say. There are no reason for selling. It will be just a residence for our family. And some limited agricultural activities, of course, so smaller utility accessory buildings for equipment for the property itself.
Okay, sir, while you're right there, is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing that, I'll bring it back to the board. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this zoning change.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Ron, a second by Debbie on item H11. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item H12.
Tyler Gardner and Shelby Hines request to change the zoning classification from GU to RRMH1 under application number 24Z00037, tax count number 2406117 in District 1.
Ma'am, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Hello, Shelby Hines. We're at 480 Key Road, Titusville, Florida.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do there.
So we purchased 1 acre that's currently zoned GU, and we want to change it to RMH1 so we can put a manufactured home on it.
All right, while you're right there, does anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Seeing that, I bring it back to the board. We got any questions for Ms. Tyler?
Mr. Chairman, I move we recommend approval of this zoning change.
Okay, we've got a motion by Ron, a second by Robert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Have a good day. Well, I guess we can say meeting adjourned then.
Hold on, you got somebody.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.
I had some questions that I've been trying to get answered because I realized that there's an agenda item, tomorrow's BCC, on the consent that modifies the structure of this board. And I've been trying to figure out what was going on that would cause us to want to modify that. And I can't get a lot of answers because I also can't find your minutes. I don't know if you guys know where they are, but I can't find them on the Legistar or on the website. So I was going to do a little research to see if you've already talked about this. Did you have I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I realize you're all volunteers, and thanks for that last meeting last month because that was brutal. And I don't want to waste your time, but if you...
Well, there should have been meetings, the minutes attached to that meeting, if you found that meeting. But now, well, we just approved them today, I'm sorry.
Well, you're saying that they're part of the package from the previous?
What minutes?
Referring to the issue of them changing the makeup of our board, which was never discussed by planning and zoning.
Well, we weren't aware of nothing there.
I know, that's why it's not in the minutes.
Well, I was going to try and check the minutes, but I couldn't even find your minutes, so maybe you could help me out with that. I called Kristen from staff, maybe? Is she your? Is that you? Yeah, I talked to her on the phone. I also talked to technology, but somebody can't seem to explain why I can't find the minutes to your
Okay,
guys.
sir, what minutes are you looking for, and we'll get them to you?
All of them.
From what date range?
I swear to God, yesterday I was looking into this, and they were up on the website, not the Legistar, They were up there in PDF, and now I look and it says there's no documents to be seen.
Gotcha.
So I don't know where they are.
Okay, well, I can take down your information and we'll send it out to you. We'll treat it like a public
Because
records request.
technology says there's nothing wrong with the website.
Understood.
All right, and they
Yeah.
also, so I don't know where that is, but I hate to waste your time when I could do the research myself. So
Okay.
that's a good answer, I'll take that. But I was just wondering if you guys, that consent item, it looks like, again, I'm a little, it's not a conspiracy theory so much as, it looks like they're trying to pack the court. They're increase the number of voting members, and the rationale was that they couldn't get enough people, they were worried about not making quorum, and I didn't know, do you guys have a problem making quorum? I know that you can max out at 10. The way I look at it, John Tobias never even put anybody on this board, right? Are you 3 down right now? Is that true, Mr. Chairman?
If you look at the sheet we have, yes, but I mean, we still have enough for a quorum, and we still have
Well, they're
ample-
trying to assign 3 voting members now per county commissioner, so you're going to have.
Well, we haven't even seen that item.
Okay, well, I just.
So, I mean,
I don't want to get anybody in trouble because you all serve at the pleasure of the county commission, right?
There you go. Well, I guess apparently they're going to be meeting on that tomorrow night. Is that correct? Tomorrow morning? That's going to be step 1?
Well, it's a consent item, so they're going to blow right through it unless somebody raises. I'll be down there. I'm going to ask a question and see if they'll pause. But they see, you guys tend to answer. See how you're answering questions? I love this board. They have a tendency not to do that. So if they decide not to discuss it, they'll blow right past it.
Well, the 2 guys that get stars today is Ron and Robert. That got us through this. All right, we good?
Yeah, I'll be at that meeting. I just didn't know. I'm trying to figure out who moved that item. Staff.
We are, none of us up here are even aware.
We know less than you do.
Well, could staff answer that question right now?
Well,
you didn't start my clock, damn it.
Well, I'm going to try to close this meeting so we can get these fine people on this board. Oh, go ahead.
Did anybody want to answer who moved it?
Mr. Chair, would you like me to address the question? I know you're trying to close the meeting. I'm happy to if you'd like me to.
Please.
Okay. So staff, after the last meeting that you all had, where it was 5.5 hours, and we had a couple of alternates here that were courteous enough to stay the entire time, we thought that if people are going to be volunteering to give their time to this board and to this county, it would be in our best interest to make sure that they had the ability to vote after sitting through a meeting like that. So there's some things in our code that become, the way we handle alternates currently, which each commission district appoints 2 regular members and 1 alternate. So there's already 3 P&Z members or LPA members for each district. So 1 is an alternate, and there are certain rules that allow them to vote in certain situations. And that becomes difficult to administer a lot of times, and it doesn't necessarily stay true through the whole meeting. It may fluctuate for each item. So it's just a matter of cleaning things up, making it easier, rather than reducing the number, asking the board to reduce the number of members. We thought it would be the best approach would be to just increase it by having the alternate be a regular member. That's what the item is. It's legislative intent. We didn't bring it to you all because we thought it was just more of a, housekeeping matter on our end, and the board will either choose to go forward with it or they will not.
Okay, and now the commissioners are going to discuss this tomorrow?
Permission to advertise is tomorrow.
Legislative intent and permission to advertise the code change is tomorrow. There is a draft to the code change attached to the agenda item. So if anybody wanted to see it, you can see that we're not trying to go further than what was in the item. There's already a draft associated with it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Question, Ted. Why didn't you change the quorum requirement?
Because we have had difficulties getting quorums before, and so we lowered it to 6, and we thought it would be in the best interest for everyone to keep it at 6 and rather than a majority.
But with 3 voting members per district, you could have essentially a quorum with District 1 and District 2 people.
Yes.
And that would snowball something into something that the rest of us may not like.
We could have that now with the alternates.
Only if the regular member is not in attendance,
Not
because they won't have a
really.
vote. Alternates don't have a vote when the regular member is in
That's
attendance.
one of the problems I think they're trying to
Yeah.
address is the voting of an alternate, because if you read the bylaws, alternates can vote and not necessarily just because they're an alternate for their district, but depends on what other districts have people here.
So last meeting, we were down. I should have been able to vote, and it was found out after the fact, even though my two people were here.
Boy, that's not clear in the audio.
Well, you were specifically asked, and it was pointed out by the manager guy that was here that
Yeah,
meeting.
and he
that
followed
you-
up and said that
that you
it
were
was a
basically stood
misreading
down,
that I
right?
should have been able to, yeah.
Oh,
So today, I think
so
we had
don't know
enough
that
members
I don't even
where I
know
couldn't.
if the statute that they're stating has anything, I read through it kind of briefly, but I don't think it says anything about on what the quorum is. I know it says 10 votes, and it will never exceed 10 votes, and I think it's pretty confusing. I just probably was going to try to find out. I'll follow up with you guys
Sure.
about
Well,
my
I
questions.
mean, we
and
agree
email.
with you. That's why we are offering up this ordinance change. It is confusing, and we don't want people to have not wasted, but have sat through a long meeting potentially and not have their voice or expertise heard on. So
Well, the
that's the
interesting thing
change.
is that I don't believe I asked that question. Tobias, three members that he could designate? There's nobody from his district here, is there, currently?
I think as one alternate via online.
I think it just depends on when people leave or when they resign or if people get appointed. It's just as simple as that.
Okay, well, you're trying to expand the board, and, you know, you have some commissioners that aren't even filling their positions. So I don't understand that, why you would expand the board when you don't have commissioners that are even, and his responsibility is this citizen board. He's the representative that represents the interests of this board, and he put nobody on the board. It seems insane to me that you'd want to expand it, and he doesn't seem to support the board. So, I don't know, it just seemed a little weird. I just came down to make some trouble, and I think I've done that. And I'll follow up tomorrow with those guys of course, again, and I appreciate you guys answering questions, and, you know, I do have the contacted staff. I'll follow up with an email and try to get some stuff
All right.
figured out. All right, thank you guys very much.
Thank you, sir. Can we say meeting adjourned this time? All right.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.